So let's talk about what social media is. They are very simply just online communities where users share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content, for example, videos. Right now, the latest stats tells that 75% of Canadians are using social media. The #1 social media platform in Canada is Facebook at 73%. 35% is second for YouTube, although we don't know how much of that is just watching cats. Third and fourth are Twitter and LinkedIn at 20%. Twitter, for anybody who doesn't know, is a micro-blogging service where you upload a message of 140 characters or less. And LinkedIn is a professional social networking site where people in professional organizations can create connections and develop professional networks. If we look at the data a little bit deeper, as you could expect, social media use increases as you get younger. You can see that the 18 to 29 demographic is well over 80%. You'll notice the 10 to 17 has a question mark behind it. We're extrapolating that. We're predicting what we think that is. Always problematic to get accurate data for 10 to 17-year-olds, partly because you're depending upon parents for that information. The other reason is a lot of 10 to 17-year-olds are using social media without permission or using anonymous accounts. We're predicting it's around 90%, but we don't know for sure. The fastest growing group in this, 65 and over. Those are people who are retiring, they're comfortable with technology, they've got time on their hands, and they're starting to move into the social media sphere. Interestingly, females more than males by about 10%. Urban more than rural by about 9%. There's absolutely no difference based on socioeconomic status. Income level doesn't affect this at all. So about half of all parents are worried about their child's social media use. And the Pew Institute in the US did a survey of parents, and they identified what the main concerns that they had were. The #1 concern that parents have about social media is their kids are interacting with commercial products all the time. Those commercial products are getting information about their child's habits. They want to know what's happening to that information. What are these companies doing with that information while their kids are on Facebook and that kind of stuff. The second thing, they're worried about their child's online interaction with strangers. These could be two kinds of strangers. It could be people that their kids don't know. It could be people that they're just meeting on chat rooms and things like that. It also could be people that the parents don't know but the kids do. And there's a loss of control. There's a worry there from parents about who exactly are my kids interacting with. The third concern is how is their online activity going to affect their future? Okay? Stories like this about kids who are not getting jobs because of things that they've posted on Facebook, or maybe they're not getting the university or the educational opportunities they have because of some mistake they made in social media that comes up at a later date. And then finally, the fourth one, what is their child's online reputation and how are they managing it? Are they going to do something on social media that's going to affect them and it's going to make it more difficult for them socially? And of course, all of these things are increased the younger the kids are. The younger your kids are, the more you're worried about these things. So we agree that there are a lot of concerns for parents. And I think the general perception is that this is a really tough time to be a teenager. That there's a lot of stress and it's not a safe place to be. I want to share a couple of quotes with you, see if these resonate with you. Here's the first one. Today's children love luxury, have bad manners, contempt for authority, and love chatter instead of exercise. I don't know whether that resonates with you. That's the kind of thing I can hear a lot. Here's another one. Young people of today think of nothing but themselves. If this kind of stuff is stuff that you identify with, you might be interested to see that the first one was said 400 years before Christ by Aristophanes, the Greek philosopher. And if the second one resonated with you, well, you're a little bit more contemporary. That one came from Peter the Hermit in the 12th century. The point is, this fear we have that society is changing too fast, it's going to damage our children, is something that we do as parents, and it may not be entirely rational. Okay? This guy in the top right, David Finkelhor, is the director of the University of New Hampshire Crimes Against Children Research Center. And he coined the term juvenovia for this very tendency that we have. He says that juvenovia is the exaggerated fear about the influence of social change on youth. He conducted the very first U.S. study into child safety online in 2000. And when it was done, he got concerned that maybe parents were acting irrationally about how safe society was. So he started a 10-year study into how safe is society. Is it really safer or is it not? He looked at the 8 leading indicators of teen and child safety. And he tracked the stats over the last 5 to 10 years. Here's what he looked at. He looked at bullying stats, kids targeted by hate speech, youth crime, school violence, teen drug and use rates, child sexual abuse, teen and sexual activity and pregnancies, and teen suicide rate. Pretty much a litany of all the things you don't want to happen to your kids. What he found was this. He found that of all of those things, they all have dropped significantly over the last 5 to 10 years. That in fact, our society is safer now than it was 10 years ago based on these stats. And those conclusions led him to say the following. He said, the internet is not especially dangerous. We have dangers in our society, we have dangers in our community, and we have to manage them, and we have to recognize them and react to them. But that doesn't mean that we don't engage in our society. We only need to know that there are dangers in order to warrant this, but we don't have to argue that the internet and social media is especially dangerous. There are risks, there are manageable risks. That doesn't mean we should disengage. We live in a time when parents are very risk averse. We want our kids to wear bike helmets. We almost want to coat the world in Velcro so that nobody gets hurt. And the question then becomes, why would we take any risks with our kids at all? So what we want to do is we want to talk about why the fact these things are going down over the last 5 to 10 years as social media is becoming more prominent. And David Finkelhorst says, maybe, just maybe, social media is protective. Maybe it might make negative behaviors less likely. Now, how would that work? Let me tell you some of the ways. Connections. Social media is really good at helping kids connect with other people. Being a teenager can be very, very isolating. If you're the only Florida Panthers fan in your school, you feel alone. Maybe you're the only one who's into the Nordic rock band that is so cool right now. And that's very isolating. Using social media, you can connect with others around common interests and interact and talk and feel not quite so alone. With all the concern we have about teen mental health, this can be really, really valuable. It helps to connect people to other people of varied interests. You get different perspectives on things and it broadens your mind. Social media helps people develop their creativity. People get to share art, they get to share music, and they get to involve themselves in discussions about it. It allows them to collaborate on school projects. Brianna talked about this. My kids do this all the time. Their homework, they're on social media, and they're discussing things and having group work while they're at home. It also can help them with all kinds of good works, volunteering and raising money. So connections can really help kids be in a better state of mind as they go through their teen years. We know that teenagers' brains are risk takers. We know that their prefrontal cortex is not developed until about 21, and that means they're not good at making good decisions. So the teenage brain is determined to take risks. What social media allows them to do, it allows them to take risks in a more safe environment. Okay? If they're determined to ask out the coolest boy or the coolest girl in school, they can do it from the safety of their home. They can think about it. They can put together a message. And when they get turned down, it's not quite so embarrassing because they're not in front of everyone. It's a safer environment for them to take risks. They can do that from inside their home or just on their devices. Another thing to do with risk-taking is we know that the wider a child's social network is, the less likely they are to take risks. If they only have 3 friends and all their friends think it's a good idea, they tend to do it. If they have 20 people they can ask, somebody's about to say, you know what, that's not such a good thing, you shouldn't do that. So the wider you can make that social network through social media, the less chance they have, the less likelihood they have of doing something really silly. Social media can uncover problems. This is Jacob Cox Brown. On about 1 o'clock on January 1st in Aurora, Oregon, the police got a report that somebody had crashed their car into a couple of other cars on the way home. They went, they checked it out, there was no evidence, they had no idea who had done it, until Jacob posted this on his Facebook wall at about 2 o'clock that afternoon. They forwarded it to police, they went over to his house, they found him, and they found his damaged car. They were able to identify him through this. There are lots and lots of examples of where social media use has uncovered problems that we didn't know about. The Steubenville rape case is a really good example of this. Jason now is getting the help he needs to deal with that stuff, and maybe we wouldn't have known about it if it hadn't been for social media. So using social media can uncover things and provide a window into child's behavior that we haven't seen. Because everybody's walking around with a recording device in their pocket, that can be a deterrent for negative behavior. Kids have to think, if I do something silly, all my friends are going to record it and it's going to be up on social media tomorrow. That discourages them from negative behavior. Communication skills are going to be absolutely critical in the 21st century, especially electronic communication skills, the ability to manage communication skills, the ability to manage your electronic profile. A Canadian magazine surveyed 42 Canadian organizations, and you can see we're not talking Microsoft and Google here, we're talking Ford, McDonald's, Via Rail, some pretty stable and conservative organizations. And when they surveyed all of them, they made the statement, most Canadian organizations are using social media in some form. Your kids need to know how to do this. And a great way to develop electronic communication skills is by using social media. Social media can even be a career. This is TJ Burns. He's a writer in Toronto, has kids, supports his family. This is the stuff that he writes. He writes a lot of social media stuff. He's the social media communicator for the Ontario Public Schools Board Association. And he says about 50 to 80% of his job is just social media. Tell me your kids wouldn't like to have a job where they're doing Twitter and Facebook. There are thousands of professionals, and that's their job, working in social media. And there are, in fact, so many of these positions that Algonquin College is launching for the first time in September this year, the first full-time post-secondary program in social media. The lady in the top right is Dana Boyd. She's one of the smartest people in the world about teenagers and social media. She's a research fellow at Harvard. She works as a researcher for Microsoft. She points out to us that the teenage years are times of self-definition. It's when kids go out and they try to define themselves outside the family. And the way they do this is they cluster in unmediated public spaces. Public spaces where there are adults around but they're not supervising them. Think about kids hanging out in a mall. Think about kids hanging out in a park. That's an unmediated public space. And what they do is they go through a process of trial and error. They try to figure out, am I funny? I'll try to do something funny and see how my friends react to it. Am I smart? Am I kind? Am I shy? It's a process of trial and error, and it can't happen if they're being supervised by adults, because adults stop that from happening, stop being so silly. Okay? Here's what she says. She says, the research shows that when it comes to socializing with friends, youth prefer in-person, unregulated encounters. If they can, they want to get together face-to-face. Okay? That's their preference. They turn to social media when they can't get together with their friends en masse, or when they can't get together without surveilling adults. Her point is that over the last 10 to 20 years, we've reduced the chances for kids to get together en masse, unsupervised. We tell them, we don't want you hanging out with Tim Hortons because you make too much noise. Or we don't want you hanging out at the mall. And if you're going to do stuff, you've got to do it in sports, or you've got to do it in clubs, where there are adults around to supervise. And so what they're doing is they're defaulting to social media. They're going to social media because they can't get what they want face-to-face. So we agree that there are some real benefits of social media and there are some real risks. The question becomes then, what can parents do? Get to know your child. You are the one who can assess what the risks are. You know what your child can handle, what level of responsibility, what level of trust they have. I'm very much in favor when it comes to social media of a gradual release of responsibility. We don't, when kids are 16-year-old, give them the keys to the car and say, good luck on the roads, kid. We don't do that. What we do is we take time, we teach them how to use the technology, we help them learn, we learn with them, we give them instruction, and then, even when they're able to do that, we only allow them to use the technology within certain limited parameters. I'm suggesting we do the same thing with social media. We don't give our kids the keys to the social media car and let them go and crash out on the highway. One of the ways you can do that is if you open other things that you can do, it's time to have the talk. It's time to sit down and talk to your kid about social media. Let them know what you expect. Please understand that the kids are never too young for this discussion. We just heard tonight about 7-year-olds on Facebook. We know that there are 3- and 4-year-olds who are on YouTube watching videos, reading comments. Your kids need to know, what do you expect of them? How do you expect to handle these situations? What if they come across inappropriate content? What should they do? All of your game systems, your Wii, your Xbox, your PlayStation, the ones that the kids have in their own rooms, have chat functions on them in chat rooms. Your kids are probably exposed to stuff that you don't know about, and you need to talk to them and make sure that they know what you expect. Please, please, please tell them 100% to understand social networks are always public spaces. Always. It's very, very seductive to be alone in your room with a piece of technology and think that the message you're sending is only going to the person at the other end. It's not. Your kids need to understand right from the word go, and they need to hear it again and again and again, that everything you say is public. Don't say something to a friend over social media that you wouldn't announce to the whole school. Be a role model. Okay? It's very hard for you to have any credibility as a parent talking to your child about appropriate social media use if you are posting inappropriate pictures on your social media profile. Okay? You need to use social media responsibly yourself. Show them, how do you develop personal contacts, how do you develop professional contacts, how do you develop your own social media. You need to learn how to set up the privacy settings for yourself, because you need to do that with your kids. A lot of times over the last 5 years, we've let our children lead, and we need to stop that. We know what we're doing with social media now. The technology is not far ahead of us. We need to be in charge, and we need to show our kids how to do that. And part of that is using social media. Show them, this is how I do it. You can try it. Model it. You need to continue to learn. We are touching the tip of social media. We've talked about 5, 6, 7. There are hundreds of social media, .ly or Quickly. It's a parent question section, and they have a section on it just for social media. Parents can go in, post questions, and experts will write answers. There are also an archive of questions there, so you can search. If you want to learn about something, go on and read and put it in the search bar, and it will bring back information for you. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very, very much for listening. If you need more information on any of this stuff, that's my website at the top. You can follow me on Twitter at acampbell99, and that's my blog address there. This presentation, the slides will be up on my blog in the next couple of days in case you need to go back and check the links. And I'm looking forward to the conversation in the panel section. Thanks for listening.